my new BMW M2 Competition. And yes, it is exactly the same car from the previous video that I've decided to eventually purchase. If you haven't seen my previous video with this car, you might want to check it out in order to see the story behind me buying this actual M2 Competition. It's quite an interesting story, to say the least. But anyway, this is it. It's finally mine. I got an even better deal on the car, plus a couple of tickets to an M track day when BMW decide to restart those again after this pandemic. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with everything, to be honest. So in today's video, I want to take this car for a first drive. I've literally picked it up yesterday. And then I'm gonna answer some of your questions regarding the spec of this M2 Competition. And finally, I'm gonna tell you guys what my future plans for this car are regarding mods. So let's kick things off with the spec of this car. If you've watched my previous video, you might already know that this is not a car I actually spec'd. It's a car that I simply picked from my dealer's stock. However, I really wanted this specific car because it has all the options I would have wanted if I could afford a brand new M2 Competition. And these options are the M Sport brakes, or whatever they're called, these M2 Competition seats, and the DCT automatic transmission. All of these options combined cost around 6,500 euros, and they make up around 10% of this car's price. So they're not exactly cheap. Now, let's start off with the brakes. I wanted this option in particular because I felt that the standard brakes are not really up to par with this car's weight and performance. And second of all, they're a really good base for future upgrades. Plus, I think the car looks really good with those silver calipers, right? Anyway, I'm really pleased with how the brakes stop the car. They're a noticeable improvement to the standard brake kit, and they just give me more confidence to push the car knowing that I can easily stop it in its tracks. I'm still not 100% used to them when driving slowly because they're a bit grabby, but I'm getting there with time. Now, the seats, well, this is kind of a no-brainer, right? I mean, just look at them. Aren't they worth 1,500 euros just for the looks alone? I mean, in my opinion, they make the interior a bit more special, a bit more M-car-like, right? But beside the fact that they look pretty good, they're also very comfortable and they hold you into place quite well when you're driving this car properly. Now let's move on to the gearbox. I've got quite a lot of questions on this topic, especially from older viewers that were following me since the days of my manual M2 LCi, and they were quite curious why I went for a DCT car when I gave the manual so much praise. Well, the answer to that question is not as straightforward as you might think, so I'll try to be as brief as possible as I explain it. First off, I'm not really a big automatic transmission fan, mostly because of the way they work around town. They always upshift too early, they keep the engine at low RPMs all the freaking time, and when you quickly need a boost of power, they're very slow to react because they keep the engine at far too low RPMs. Now, of course, all automatic transmissions have a sport mode, but that sport mode does exactly the opposite. So yeah, the bottom line is that I could never find a gearbox that sits somewhere in the middle. Until I drove a DCT gearbox on an M2 Competition a few months ago. And that's when I fell in love with this gearbox. Now, all DCT transmissions have a button down here that lets you select the gearbox shift velocity. But beside that, this button also tells the gearbox when to upshift and downshift. There's 3 settings, and if you keep the DCT in the middle one, then this transmission acts exactly like I would if I had a manual car. Meaning it only upshifts between 2500 and 3000 RPM, and it always keeps the engine in its power band. So as soon as you need power, you just give it some throttle and there's power available. I just love this feature in DCT transmissions from BMW, and it is one of the main reasons why I decided to go automatic this time. The second reason is because I already experienced a manual M2 for around 18 months, and I went through that phase already. And well, this time for my needs, the DCT box just does it for me. It just makes the car easier to drive around town. The shifts are extremely fast in manual mode, and it's just very adjustable for an automatic transmission. So yeah, I really love this gearbox and I'm very, very happy with my choice. Now let's talk about some mods. There's 3 big things that I want to change on this car, and in the order of their importance, they are the exhaust, the suspension, and the wheels. I think it's pretty obvious for everyone why I want to change the exhaust on this car, and that's because the OPF filters that we have in Europe are just killing the sound of every single sports car, and that's the reason why I'm going full catback exhaust on my M2 Competition. And even though I haven't really decided on what brand I'm gonna go for, based on what I've heard so far, I think Eisenman is the way to go for me. I enjoy their sound the most. But yeah, you're gonna find out as soon as I have decided and I'm gonna move forward with this. Second big mod is the suspension, and the main reason why I want to change the suspension is because I want a more adjustable one, because I really plan on taking this car to the track, and I want to be able to switch from a comfortable car to a more stiffer suspension setting when I'm on the track, and back to comfort when I leave the track, for example. And the second reason why I'm planning to change the suspension on the car is because of the stock ride height. I personally think the car rides just too high for an M car, and I think it just needs a drop of around 20 to 30 millimeters to just look perfect, at least in my eyes. And last but not least, the wheels. I'm not really a big fan of the competition wheels, and the plan is to keep these ones for the winter setup and get summer alloys next spring, basically. Other than that, there's also some small mods I want to do on the car. Basically all the blacked out elements of the exterior, the grille, the small boot spoiler, and the M2 badging on the side. I want to change those with carbon ones. And on the inside, I plan to add some more Alcantara bits here and there. Maybe the steering wheel, maybe this trim from the CS model. We'll see. These are just plans. They will happen over time, obviously, because they're not exactly cheap. But that's about it for today's video, my friends. I'm really excited to be back full-time in an M2. I really love everything about these cars. I adore the design, I love the shape of it, I love the back to basics approach BMW had when developing the M2 and M2 Competition. This has been my favorite car since it was launched in 2016, I think, and I don't think that's gonna change for a while now. Yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, my friends. Please give it a thumbs up if you have, and make sure you subscribe for plenty more M content to come. And until next time, take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you around.